Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, July 11th. The LA Galaxy getting ready to travel off to their house of horrors, their own personal nightmare. That's right, Dallas, Texas, technically Frisco, Texas. The LC are headed over there in a place they haven't won since 2015. It's so much uglier than that. We'll get into all the details, tell you all about it. And the LA Galaxy have 11 games remaining. 10 of those games come against Western Conference opponents. Last 11 games, we're in the stretch, boys and girls. It's going to be a lot of fun to take you all the way to the end of the season. Galaxy looking pretty good for that playoff spot. In order to help me today, we are glad to have him back. Looking just sassy in his jersey and kit today. Please welcome back to the show. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Well, after that introduction, I'm doing much, much better.
Yeah? Were you a little down today?
I was a little down.
Okay.
I popped my hamstring. Pulled a hammy.
Oh,
playing
so you
slow pitch softball.
You and Dayon,
Who does that?
Yeah.
Who does that?
I hurt my back stretching a couple days ago. So in bed, I was just like, oh, let me reach out. Oh no, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, and I'm incapacitated. I can't walk. I'm ready to use the cane.
Wow.
Ready to, I'm planning, arrangements with a funeral parlor. Like this is, it was a disaster. The ego hurt more than anything.
Right.
Because as you know, we get in our age, we're like, hey, we could still do this. It's only slow pitch softball. I'm not going to be stretching or running. We're just going to sit there and mash. And it turns out that I did have to stretch for a grounder, and there I go. So again, down in the dumps. But after that introduction, and again throw on the old school LA Galaxy, I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. We got some leaks and some things to look out. So had to throw this on for today. And as we anticipate coming to Dallas in this lovely heat. Yeah, my hometown. It's a homecoming. It's every year I make the trek down to Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas, and I get to watch the Galaxy lose. It's tradition.
As sweat drips down your back, and in all the places you don't want it, right? So
exactly.
It was fun. Have you ever heard of a YouTube series called Random Golf, the Random Golf Club?
I don't think I'm familiar.
It has a host whose name is Eric Anders Lang. And if you go follow him, first of all, it sounds pretentious. He's probably he seems like the least pretentious guy.
I think
guy
you've shared these videos with me. Yes.
Right. Yes. So this is like one of my favorite things is, adventures in golf he does for, I think, United Airlines for like their in-flight, but they're also on YouTube and they're like just great stuff and the whole deal. Well, one of his adventures in golf, he went to a nudist colony down in Florida to play golf nude. And he said he was surprised by how much sweat is on everything, and it's distracting.
When you don't have the wicking fabric, it makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, LA Galaxy land, we are almost there, Eric. 11 games left for the LA Galaxy. I mentioned only one single game. I looked real quick. Only one single game, August 24th against Atlanta, against an Eastern Conference team. Everything else is in conference. Everything else is in play. With 11 games, if you lost 10 games in the Western Conference, I would imagine it would be difficult to make the playoffs. I mean, you're still not locked in yet. You haven't clinched anything, LA Galaxy. And they're going to a place where I was very much not kidding. House of Horse have not won in Dallas since 2015. Robbie Keane scored a brace in 2015. By the way, Galaxy gave up the first goal in that game, scored 2 in the second half. Thanks to Mr. Robbie Keane. He scored. During those now 7 games that they've played where they haven't haven't won. They didn't even like draw. They lost every single one.
I've been there for the last 3. Yeah.
You're like, I
it's
remember.
Not pretty.
so they've done that. They've been outscored 19-4 in those games. It's not even like it was.
They're spankings.
A couple of those are 1-0. A couple of those are 2-0. There's like a 3-2 in there, that type of thing. One of them is like 5-2.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was the first year that I moved. I saw it was like a 4-1 or a 5-2, something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I mean, just in general, before we even get too far, how is the weather right now in Frisco?
It's hot. It's really hot. It's in the 90s, but I guess technically for July it's not too bad. Last year it was in the triple digits. It broke a record for like 10 days consecutively above the triple digits. So it won't be there, but still the high 90s. In the afternoon it gets a little bit of a breeze, but it's still 80 degrees at 9 o'clock at night. So expect a humid one, probably some water breaks. They played midweek out here, so it's not that they're not going to cancel the game. The hurricane didn't travel this far north, so we don't have to worry about that. I know there are some things going around, but it should expect a warm one, and that is always. It feels like that's part of why they lose these games. It seems like it's always in the dead of summer that they play Dallas. It's never a September game or an early March game. It seems like it always lands right there in the middle of summer. So we'll see how that goes.
I should warn all of our listeners and viewers. I am once again solo parenting. Last day, we can make it. Last night we got to do it. So should the little man decide to come in, I may have to take a break. But you're more prepared than Kevin will ever be. So you don't have to worry about it.
I've got notes, I think, that I can probably reference and talk about. We'll see where we land.
I don't know where we're going with it, but the whole deal. But yeah, so we'll just prepare everybody for that. Okay, so we look at the league and we look at the standings. We can look at all these things and just some of the results that happen. We can focus in on Dallas. Strangely enough, Dallas goes to Sporting Kansas City, plays in a regular season game on Sunday. They lose that game 3-2. Then I imagine they stayed there, but maybe they went home. Who knows? But they played again on Wednesday for Open Cup. Wednesday night at
But it was back here. It was
No,
was
it was in
SKC there?
It was in SKC
was there.
there.
Okay,
Yes.
then never mind. I stand corrected.
They had a multi-hour weather delay in that game.
That's
that game
what it was.
did not get started until way late. I think it finished just before 1 a.m. So as you look at the Galaxy and possibly any advantages they can glean from that is one. I will also say that it looked like everybody was dead on that field on Wednesday night whenever I was watching, which worked out well for timing here because it was like 10 o'clock still at night whenever that game was finishing up over here. So I was like, oh yeah, no problems. We can watch that game. So they lost that game too. So Dallas is this really weird team, and I think we'll talk about it more, which is they've been very good at home as they normally are. They've just been absolute crap on the road, and that's been the difference for them. They are a below average team right now, and they have some really good players on there, but nothing really seems to work, and they have a ton of injuries lining up. By the way, Galaxy also stacking up some injuries as well. So when you look at the league, you look at the standings, we can even start who is your big team right now in Major League Soccer that you are like, these are the top 3 best teams, and really it's probably not close to everybody else?
Do I have to say their name?
You do.
It's the rivals. It's the guys. It's the LAFC. For whatever reason, they're our bugaboo team this year, and they we've seen the Galaxy play really well in the last few months and some of their best soccer. And then for whatever reason, when they see that rivalry game, it's almost like this bizarro LA Galaxy season. I keep repeating that theme over and over again. I said this is the bizarro LA Galaxy season. These streaks where unable to beat Peter Vermees, and Vanny's able to do that. Unable to get the 3-game win streak, and they're able to do that. And past seasons where the Galaxy are lower in the standings for whatever reason, in the rivalry game in El Tráficos, they came out victorious. It's the opposite this year. So the only thing that I hope is, maybe down the line, if we do see them again, some changes happen. So that's one team that I'll put up there. Do it, gritting my teeth and not happy about it. But LAFC is definitely the team you have to worry about. And then of course Miami. Once they have everybody, they seem like. It's strange when you watch some of their highlights. It seems like when they're on, and when they're off, they're off. It seems like there's not a lot of. They don't have okay games, but surviving without Messi and friends, without Suarez, without Messi, it seems like they're still clawing and getting points and having some success there. So they're a team that I worry about. And FC Cincinnati, to be perfectly honest, it's not a team that I watch a lot or hear a lot about. They're kind of quietly just sitting on top of the league, and maybe that's just for my level where I follow the league and kind of focusing on the Galaxy. But it doesn't seem like they have tons of players who are jumping out. Obviously, Lucho Acosta, we have, the season he had last year, and he's obviously doing it again this season. But those would be my top 3 teams that I think you want to be afraid of.
I think you could. I think if you wanted to add some people in there, RSL would be in there, and I think that Columbus is in there probably for me too in terms of top 5. Power rankings have pretty much had the Galaxy at 6 for a little while, which I actually think is probably a pretty good place for them. However, some of them have RSL still above them, like RSL didn't get beat at home, didn't draw the Galaxy at home with the Galaxy and then lost on their own field. I get it that Chicho Arango, got injured in that. I can't do anything about that.
The games have to count for something. That's the one thing. RSL, the reason I didn't have them in my list, and I think you've mentioned it, either when we played them or whenever it was popping up, they feel very much like this year's St. Louis. It seemed like last year they got off to such a hot streak, and it felt like, okay, there's no way they could possibly keep this going. And then we saw once they got in the playoffs, things kind of fell apart. RSL feels like, I don't know how they're up there. Obviously, with Chicho Arango, you're always going to be, a formidable foe. And I get why they're there, but I just feel like they're waiting for something to fall apart, and they're not going to have that longevity, when you need to make a playoff run. So that's why I kind of feel like they're this year's St. Louis.
Could be. Western Conference, the Galaxy quite honestly, you look at the Galaxy's schedule coming up, and they get a little bit of a break having to play Dallas at Dallas, even though they have a horrible record there. And as you said, I think this is the year to overturn a lot of those long-standing, sort of bad plays that have been going on. So Dallas is in there, but then the Galaxy, hosts Colorado, then they host Portland, right? So you can see 4th and 5th in the Western Conference. We can go to the schedule and sort of take a look at how it falls down here at the end. You can look at San Jose, except that nobody cares because that game's going to be in Leagues Cup. And then you can look at Chivas, and that game is in Leagues Cup. And then the Galaxy come back August 24th, where they'll play Atlanta, host Atlanta. And that was the game I was telling you was the only Eastern Conference game, I believe, for the rest of the year. And then they'll be away to St. Louis. That's a little bit easier for them. St. Louis has not been playing well so far this year. You have the LA Galaxy in the last El Trafico on September 14th. That's going to be against LAFC at Dignity Health Sports Park. That, to me, is going to be one of the key games down the stretch. It's not important about win or losing. I'm not worried about points or anything like that. I want to see mentally where are you at, and how do you solve problems, and how do you play in your own stadium against the team that has had your number. And maybe this is the year that LAFC is just too strong for the Galaxy. They can't beat them in the regular season. You need to at least create a chip on your shoulder, like you've been wronged, right? You killed my father, and I'm here to revenge. Okay, that's what.
Prepared to die. Yeah.
Yep.
Go
ahead.
I like what you're saying. I don't know that I've been on since the 4th of July game, but it's exactly that. It's, you want to see them not go out and put a stinker. That's essentially what you put up a fight. Don't make stupid mistakes that are going to come back to bite you, and then have that little bit of confidence, like you said, that extra chip that when you go into the playoffs that you're going to need going in there. You don't want to go in there completely morally bankrupt. That's not the right term, right?
I don't know.
That's how
morally depressed. Mentally depressed. Where are you going? I'm morally bankrupt. They sold their soul on the internet.
Correct.
What else is new?
Whatever. That's not correct, but you know what I meant.
I'm sure.
But still.
Yeah, but still. We haven't had a yeah, but still in a long time. Thanks for bringing that back. We did it, Joe. Portland. Then the Galaxy go to Portland. That's going to be a tough game. Portland is playing well. They're one of the teams to sort of watch as they rise towards the end of the last games here. LA Galaxy hosting Vancouver, then at Colorado, tough. Home to Austin, okay, and then the last game. The Austin game. That would be fan appreciation night. And we'll get to pay attention. We'll get to go through Josh's stats of fan appreciation night and what happens. And then the LA Galaxy head to Houston for the final game in October. So this is it. This is the stretch run. Those are the rest of the league games. This will determine where the LA Galaxies fall in the playoffs. And if they can go in here and run off a couple, 6-7 wins, they're going to be easily at the top first, second, third place, fourth place in that Western Conference, which is what they're shooting for, that home game. You'd really like to see them build momentum, and we are still expecting that they're going to add a player, at least one, coming up here as soon as the transfer window opens. So, and then you have to integrate that person, and maybe you can do that a little bit during Leagues Cup if you can get them in time, so that way they can get some playing time. Marco Reus, that's who we're talking about. That's who we're still expecting. I'm not going to hide it. That's what at this point I said it. I said it on Monday's show. I said I would be surprised at this point if it didn't happen. It's has that momentum behind it. It's quiet, calm momentum. He could have gone somewhere else for a lot more money. and I think he's ready to settle here. And I think his wife is ready to come to Los Angeles. That's the important part too.
Yeah, that's the kicker right there is, with all the movement going on around other leagues, and you think if someone else was in the running that was going to make a bona fide offer that he was entertaining, that move would have already been done because they wouldn't be waiting for, the MLS transfer window to open. So I think that's something where it's pretty obvious that that's going to happen. So I think that's a great point. And I think the Panda made it on Monday in terms of how is the League's Cup run going to affect this team. And I think if you are integrating someone like Marco Reus in this team, you want more than 2 games to do it. So that's, while you can, throw your hands in the air and say, okay, San Jose and Chivas de Guadalajara, is this really going to be something where you want the Galaxy putting their eggs in this basket when over the course of the first 2/3 of the season, they've shown that they probably could make a playoff run. And it's funny that you talked about there's only 11 games left. It felt like we blinked and now there's a third of the season left. We were talking about, well, let's get through the first third of the season and see if they still hang on towards these top part of the standings. And the halfway point, okay, they look like they're for real. And now we're getting to the point, hey, maybe we can make a playoff run. So you've seen that consistency where they haven't had that total dip that maybe they've had in past seasons. So now you throw something into those Leagues Cup games, and then you have more minutes with Royce getting used to the midfield, shaking things around. And then if you can get rolling, then that third El Trafico pokes around. You show them, hey, this is what you might see further down the road. And then, all you need is a lucky roll of the dice, and we'll see how that goes in the playoffs. So I think the Leagues Cup run, more than anything, would be crucial to integrating Royce into the lineup.
I like how you said get on a roll, and then there was Royce in there, so Rolls-Royce.
Rolls-Royce,
I'm in for that. Yeah. Injuries for the LA Galaxy. Let's update because there's some stuff here that also talks about Leagues Cup. Dejan Jovalic, he is out for this weekend, and it's unlikely that he will be back towards the end of the 3-game week, right? There's 3-game weeks here. Here, let's go to the schedule again so we can talk through it.
You're killing me, Dejan. It's, you're my one chance to go watch you and see you do your thing in Dallas. And now I have to see what the rotation is going to bring me. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
So Greg Vanny today said hamstring tightness for Dejan Jovalic, but he said the tightness is coming from somewhere, and usually whenever there's tightness, it means there's a low-grade something, right? And so I think you were thinking low-grade strain, that type of thing. They said they'll have to manage this. This is not something that they're just going to throw him back. And Vanny said this about Jovalic, and he said it about with a guest on Brugman, and he said it about Aude as well. He's talking about through Leagues Cup, shutting them down. Julian Aude has a groin thing that he's been dealing with that he shut down until after Leagues Cup. They're like, we're done. We're going to let him heal. We're not touching it. We're going to use League Cups at the break. You will not, basically, you're not going to see him until they come back from Leagues Cup. Don't ask. Don't expect it. They're not going to see him. I think the same with Jovalic. I think they're shutting him down, and they're going to shut guys down for Leagues Cup because they need these guys to be ready. The Galaxy have put themselves in a position, Eric.
That was the point I was going to make.
Leagues Cup doesn't matter. You're starting to hear it from them, and they're never going to say it, but Leagues Cup is not going to matter in terms of they're going to make sure guys are healthy before anything else. So keep that in mind for Leagues Cup. If you're a big bettor on Leagues Cup, I would not. I would refrain.
But with a 3-team group, that's where who knows what can go wrong or what can go right in terms of advancing. But I don't imagine them, like you're saying, putting full first team lineups to go and make a run to win the thing. You want to, go as far as to get you to integrate others, but that's the benefit of not having a slump. And where we talked about it, let's see how they are at the halfway point. Let's see where they are. They now have put themselves in a position where if you look at the standings, it's LAFC, RSL, and the Galaxy, and then a big gap, and then everyone else.
Yep.
So they have afforded them the next 3 or 4 games, basically, a 9-point cushion, if you want to call it that, to spot themselves. It's 6 points between them and Colorado,
right.
And then Portland. Portland's a 10-point jump. So they've given themselves 3 games to essentially throw in the trash and still have a home playoff game. And I think that's the benefit of snagging those points early and being able to put yourself to say, hey, there's no pressure to put Jovalic in a position where he might strain the hamstring even further. Put Aude in a position where maybe he's not fully ready, but we need to get these points if we're going to make a playoff push. That's the great thing. Why we always say the points at the beginning of the season are worth just as much of the points at the end of the season, and this is all part of the chess match that it works out.
Yeah, so Joveljic out and likely shut down until after Leagues Cup. Aude out and likely shut down until after Leagues Cup. Gaston Brugman. Now, Brugman went on Twitter. I didn't even know he had a Twitter, but he has a Twitter. And he went on
check mark.
Right, no check mark. Yeah, of course, he doesn't need to pay for that crap. It's Gaston Brugman. This could be anybody, but I have it on good authority. It's correct, so we'll go with it. Gaston Brugman at Gaston Brugman, by the way. Good job getting your own name. Hi, G's. I'm in Uruguay for green card process. I'm waiting for the embassy to give me back my passport, and I will return to play with my team. There was a whole big thing about this, that there was going to be, a season-ending injury. We debunked this when it first came out. Like the first couple days, we killed it, and we're like, okay, good, guys, you don't have to worry about that. It's an MLS internet, whatever their tables are. Listen, the MLS website is horrible. All right. It is really bad. If you're trying to trust any information on it, which is where I go to look for information because I cover a team that is in Major League Soccer. If you have to verify the information with something else, which is craziness to me.
Yeah. It is crazy that you need to go to a FotMob or Who Scored or Football Reference, any of these other places who, quite honestly keep better track than the league website. So that is kind of crazy. But again, going back to reading the tea leaves and confirming Marco Reus without confirming Marco Reus, why would Gaston Brugman need to get a green card? You need to open up an international slot, and that's one way to do it. You can read it two ways and say, is this, potential of seeing Brugman stick around a little bit longer because he's now solidifying whatever that process may be? You could read it that way, or you could say they're in need of a spot, and, Gaston Brugman is the one who's going to open up that spot. I think part of where this came from is because he was posting, Instagram stories, in Uruguay, and people were thinking, well, he's been shut down for the season. He's home, right. He's resting or whatever it is. And that's not the case. And I'm glad he came out and clarified it. Shout out to LA Galaxy 310 on Twitter. They quote tweeted it and they said source,
Yeah, right.
You can't get a better source than Gaston Brugman.
Maybe he's gaslighting us. You don't know that. He could be. Maybe it's not even him. There's no blue check mark. You don't know. It could be me. Maybe that's my
Gaston
burner.
lighting us.
Yeah, he's Gaston. Very good. Oh, by the way, Larry Morgan not on Twitter asked me if let's see, hold on. Let me get the text up because he was asking me about you. Let's see. In classic Larry way, the only way that Larry can do things. Oh, really? It doesn't want to show up. That's nice. Okay, cool. He was like, "Oh, are you and Hammer coming on?" But he used a better thing here. Let's see. Oh, are you and Martelo on tonight? And I'm like, and he goes, by the way, that's Portuguese for hammer. So he spent the time to look it up so that way he can make sure that he
well
had
done,
you in
Larry.
there.
Larry, a man of many talents, a bon vivant, if you will. So always. Shout out to Larry. Miss you, Larry.
But anyway, so Gaston Brugman out. And listen, Greg Vanney said he still needs to finish up his return to play as well. So he's not ready even whenever he comes back, but he's close. Johnny Perez was the one who's very close. Now, Vanney said he didn't think he'd get through all of his return to play stuff before Wednesday, but he thought that, this weekend, but he thought that midweek would probably be a good chance for him to come back. So getting Johnny Perez back would be a nice addition to come back there, and that relieves some of the pressure on Diego Fagundes for not having to play every single position, because I think that there might be, and Vanney mentioned it, that it might be striker by committee whenever it comes to what's going on. Now,
is it time? I think we got some super chats to probably address that.
Yeah, we can get into it a little bit. Hey guys, this is from Adam. Hey guys, any thoughts on Fagundes being a false nine on Saturday? Would this work out in any way, or would this disrupt the lineup? So, let's tell you what Greg Vanney said, and I'll paraphrase for you. Greg Vanney said that, they can play Paintsel there, they can play Pec there, but they're both better on the wing. And he goes, so you can put them there, but you know that you're giving up something whenever you do that. We've talked about Fagundes going up there, which I think is a really fun option for everything because you still get that creativity. And as Adam points out, false nine it, right? You can sort of have him play up there, but also just be a passing nine. And then he can still get in the box and score goals. Guy's incredibly talented, so you can do whatever you want. The whole thing is, and this is usually true with soccer coaches, so I want everybody to embrace this theory. Think about this before you shout out crazy stuff and then wonder why it doesn't happen. If you're a coach, you try to disrupt the lineup as little as possible. And so who is the plug-and-play nine? It's Miguel Berry. Now, that doesn't give the Galaxy a best chance in terms of offense, although Miguel Berry has scored a couple goals. Let's give him some credit. But in general, the really bad games the Galaxy have played have come when Miguel Berry has started at the nine. You can talk about Chicago and Austin. Both of those losses were with Miguel Berry starting at the nine.
Yeah, that's the kicker, is the starts. I think I talked myself into Miguel Berry being a viable option off the bench because he brings a little bit of energy, brings a big body.
Right.
He's going to, able to close out a game when you're talking about being able to grind out results. I think Miguel Berry is the type of guy you probably want to bring in that situation. And I don't like beating the dead horse with Miguel Berry, but I think we're at a point 2/3 of the way through the season where we need to tinker with other options up front if Dejan Joveljic is not going to be available. Because one of the things, and I mentioned this on Twitter, and I'll mention this on the show as well, when Fagundes was brought in, when Paintsel was brought in, when Pec was discussed, Will Kuntz discussed it, Vanny discussed this. These are guys who are flexible. You can plug them in up top. You can plug them in on the wing. We were told that these players are flexible, but we have not seen that flexibility used in a game. And so that's where we were told these guys are flexible. So at what point are you going to flex them? And part of this, it goes back to our, we didn't recap the Minnesota game, but it was, they need to figure out the Fagundes situation because, every time he was starting, especially when Riqui Puig was out, it seemed like the Galaxy were getting results. They found a way to integrate him in the lineup, and then they got another win against Minnesota. So I think figuring out a way to get Fagundes in there in that number 9 spot, I love the idea. We've all been clamoring for it from a fan perspective, so it's just a matter if Vanny is ready to pull the trigger. But another option, here's a crazy idea. We're fan casting, right? We're not actually,
we don't get to make any of these decisions.
We don't get to deal with the real consequences. Right. But I think about Joseph Paintsel. He's been in a little bit of a slump.
Yep.
Can't seem to get it going. I think if you take away the responsibility of the wing and just, hey, we're going to put you in front of the goal, just make something happen. And maybe that's where he gets his slump buster is when you put Joseph Paintsel in that forward position. He has the speed, especially when you compare it to someone like Miguel Berry. He has the finishing ability. It hasn't been there. That's why he's in the slump. But I think you're much better suited putting Fagundes on a wing, putting Pec on the wing, and then just letting Paintsel with his breakaway speed do his thing. That's, crazy idea. Who knows what's going on in Vanny's mind. But I don't think that disrupts things very much because you still keep your core midfield with Puig, with Delgado, and then Cerrillo, I think, has been doing an excellent job there in the middle doing what he has to do. And then you still have your wingers. And then that also opens up the possibility for Paintsel to get right, and you still get to keep Fagundes in the lineup. So to me, that feels like if I were in charge, that's a decision that I would make. But obviously, that's why I'm sitting here in my office, podcasting, talking about the team, than actually as a head coach making these decisions. But I don't know. It doesn't sound that crazy. Maybe the chat can let me know if they like that idea. It's all right. Gas me up. Gaston, light me up here.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you that Vanny hinted that Joseph Paintsel might be the perfect person to put in that position because he gives you the speed to get in behind, and he has the technical ability to finish from, on either side of his foot, the whole deal. He was also mentioning in the post game after the Galaxy won against Minnesota, he was talking about Gabriel Pec, and he goes, and he keeps scoring goals. He goes, which is good, which means I have to keep him on the right until the whole day. It's sort of like, I'll keep you there, but you better be scoring goals. Otherwise, I'm going to move you back and move Joseph over to your spot, right? The whole deal. So, I think that's some of the other adjustment part that we haven't really seen from Joseph Paintsel is that the fact he's playing more on the left, and that he was playing a little bit better on the right-hand side, right? So, if Pec likes playing on the right-hand side is scoring goals, then I'm there. I'm all about. I really think putting Paintsel and sliding Fagundes over and doing that stuff would be simple enough, right?
It makes too much sense, and especially with the speed, because that's the thing you do lose with Berry is kind of more of a lumbering. Right. Why he works off the bench. Paintsel, you send that guy flying, especially through a Dallas defense who's been struggling. I think that's a key to some success, if you ask me.
The other thing to worry about, and it is something you need to pay attention to, is that the LA Galaxy going on the road against Dallas, then home on Wednesday, then game on Saturday, 3 games. You can't start your best guys all together. You're going to have to feather them in whenever you do stuff. So yeah, exactly. Here, why don't you take over for a second here? But when I look at the Galaxy and like what they're trying to do is going after somebody like Marco Reus, does it really fill the need, or is the need another Berry replacement, that type of thing? Because that's the thing that I keep coming back to is I'd like to see somebody else playing besides Miguel Berry, and there's hopefully there's no love lost on that. I'm not trying to be mean, but it is something to talk about.
That's something. It's funny. I emailed you something. I've been getting my daily Stoic emails, and it's I'm going to sound a little bit like a douche when I say this, but that's kind of comes with the territory when you have a microphone in front of you. But I think with certain it's the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. We're in a position where a lot of Galaxy fans listen to our show, and a lot of, family members of players, we've heard that listen to the show as well. So we're not in the business of just outwardly bashing a player. And that's why I don't like being the dead horse, because at the end of the day, these are humans, these are professionals, and they're going out there, and it's not from lack of trying. I'm sure Miguel Berry wants to score a hat trick every game and wants to get in there and be the super sub. And I'm sure that's the case. And if he has family that's supporting him, that's great. But also we have to be real with our criticism as well, and that it's not there. And so going back to our fan casting or our fan coaching, whatever you want to call it, that even before the season started, and definitely through the first 10 games, once we kind of saw the sample size from our forward situation off the bench, the fan casting is bringing in a backup striker.
Right.
When Dejan Jovalic was brought in, he was brought in under the U23, U22 initiative. And so he wasn't necessarily a household name, so they went and kind of found someone who was a little bit more under the radar, and that's the type of guy you wanted to bring in. I know there are other big names that you want to bring in, the big name goal scorer, like a Lewandowski or Olivier Giroud, who was on the market. That sounds great, but you're not going to bring them in as a backup striker. So I think it is finding one of those younger guys to slot in. It seems like the Marco Reus situation is something that possibly fell in the Galaxy's lap, or for whatever it is, and maybe it's conversations that relationships have had over the years, and it just finally connected. So it wasn't something that I necessarily would have said Marco Reus is definitely someone that the Galaxy need to go after. The midfield is something that needs, the improvement, because I felt that the, triumvirate of Delgado, Brugman, and Puig were pretty much set. I thought, why tinker with that? Why mess with that? Especially with the productivity that Pec and Paintsill have brought you on the wings. So you didn't need to worry about the wings. You didn't need to worry about your core in the center. It was really shoring up that back line, making sure that Jovalic was healthy, and then when he wasn't, that you had someone who was just as capable slotting in there. What I have noticed, going back to our Miguel Berry situation where it all kind of fell apart, I felt like the Gaston Brugman situation this season is someone I feel like he's either right there with Edwin Cerrillo, or Edwin Cerrillo has passed him this season. So Brugman, I think, is someone who maybe isn't going to be your everyday starter. He's going to be your leadership guy, your locker room guy off the bench, who gives you that extra support, and someone who is very capable, but maybe he's not your everyday starter. So if that's the case, then you shift Delgado to the more defensive responsibilities. Puig does what he needs to do. He's basically your fifth center back anyway, with how deep he likes to play. And then you allow Marco Reus to be your cam and to be that attacking midfielder. You're not going to get the defense from him, but he's a guy who's going to know what to do in these situations in the attack. He's going to be able to score goals. He's going to be able to put the wingers in situations and draw some of those defenders as well. So I don't know if that's me talking myself into it, but I do feel like Marco Reus right now is someone that benefits the Galaxy, even though at the beginning of the season, it may not have been, I may have, gritted my teeth and say, is that really what we need? But I feel like at this time right now of the season, it is something that's going to help this team grow and make that run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think the LA Galaxy's salary cap is going to be able to handle it, but they do have a U22 spot open still. I think things have to move around in the offseason in order for them, and I think they're also looking for the perfect fit for what they want, right? It's like we're not going to risk it. It's not worth it, because again, and I'm not this guy, I'm usually not this guy, where it says, oh, we'll look at next year and look how things are shaping up. I would say I am telling you, look at next year and see how things are shaping up, and I think you can see that the Galaxy could do some things, move some stuff around, relieve some of the roster salary that they have on there, go out and get some different guys and perhaps be just a tiny bit stronger, because I think that's what they're looking at. I would suggest that the Galaxy find someone to be a little more physical than some of the guys that they have, because the Galaxy tend to be a team that gets pushed around, and that's why LAFC has a lot of success against them. That's where Brugman comes in. To me, he's your enforcer. He's your brute guy that comes in there. They do need, I agree, that is an element that it's a part of the game, and you see it with Argentina and Copa America, someone like DePaul, who's the Messi protector. Right. They're just in there just to stir things up. And you need guys like that on your roster who maybe it's not the technical skill, or it's not going to show up with the passing percentage or the assists, but they are going to impact, with their physical play and kind of protecting the players around it. I do think that is a weak point for the Galaxy. If they could bring in,
hey, let's bring in another defensive midfielder. But that type of guy is something that would benefit the Galaxy also.
You almost need like a box-to-box guy that you can put in there. I mean, maybe a Marco Reus is a little more physical in what he
maybe
can
we're
do.
not giving him the credit he deserves.
I think that there's a possibility there. Well, we look at the LA Galaxy. One of the hottest players for the LA Galaxy has been Gabriel Pec. And by the way, seems to just be, I mean, broad daylight, he murdered a man. He just right in front of his family and everything on live TV. Just waited for him to come and then just split that ball right between his legs. The Meg was beautiful, and it was almost like if he would have scored that, it was already, Mauricio Cuevas, by the way, had that same effect in that tap up over the top, because you can't say he did it on accident. There's no way. You saw it coming. He played it perfectly. The pass is perfect. Everything about that was perfect. But Gabriel Pec has been outstanding, and I think we are only seeing maybe 70% of what he can do. I mean, maybe it's even 60%. If this guy is on the same trajectory as like a Julian Aude, where you were like last year, like, okay, I can sort of see what you're doing, blah, 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 the whole deal. And then this year, like, oh, okay, you're good. You're like really good. Oh, that's awesome. If he is on that same trajectory where you get that improvement year over year, which is asking a lot, holy crap, he's going to be good. As my good friend Chris Tucker, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to Chris. Happy birthday to Leslie, who's a long time listener.
Leslie as well.
A long time. So happy birthday on July 11th to both of those people. But Chris was saying we're going to sell Pec for $1 billion, right? Like he was like as good as he's getting, and everything that's sort of going that way. It was pretty funny to sort of see that.
He's been the MVP of the Galaxy for the last month, maybe the last 10 games, if you want to say it, if you want to, break it up over those segments. To me, he's progressing ahead of schedule. I was waiting for what he was doing in this Minnesota game was something I was expecting next year, is that, okay, now he's figured out the defenders. He's going to start, you see that flair. That was what we were sold on him, but now he's implementing it in game situations. And we saw flashes of it, and now he's doing it. And it's crazy because there's levels to this and where it's progressing. I feel like the next step is him being selfish. He is unselfish in situations where he has a shot on goal, or he could push a little bit further because he's beat a defender on the run, and he goes for the pass, which is the right teammate thing to do and the right mindset that you want him to have. Right. But I think that next level is, we went away from the killer mentality, because they're not exactly killing off these games like maybe we thought they were going to. But that's the next step to unlock for Pec, is that killer instinct. I'm going to take it myself. I'm in it for me. And the only thing that I'll push back is that maybe that's not in his personality, because if you follow him on Instagram and you see what he's all about, he's very much a religious guy. He's into, doing what's best for others. You see how he interacts with it. He's like a choir boy. He has So I don't know if that's in there, that angry guy.
Have him read the Old Testament, all right? Get him some Old Testament in there. He'll be smiting people, striking people with lightning. That's what he needs to think. Just get him. There's plenty of violence in the Bible. Don't worry.
It's funny you mentioned Chris Tucker and his birthday. I sent him a birthday message today as well, and I don't think it's letting anything out to share the message I sent him. But I said, I hope Gabriel Pec's Lord and Savior sends you blessings on today, because he and I have gone back and forth that whatever Gabriel Pec is doing, he's converting a non-religious LA Galaxy fan base to convert to hey, I see the light. Mm-hmm. I see where he's going. He's making believers out of all of us. So hey, if Gabriel Pec can make everyone believe in him and kind of have the Lord's strength, I'm right there with him. I'm on board. You love to see someone who's so strong in their faith and unwavering. And then also, just having that extra, thing behind him. It just seems like it's such a storybook, feel for him. And so I'm really enjoying what Pec's been doing.
Well, since the LA Galaxy's 2-1 win over Minnesota United on July 7th, Pec has notched 9 goals and 8 assists in 22 games played. That's 19 games started for LA. In 9 games played dating back to May 25th, Pec's 12 goal contributions, 6 goals, 6 assists, ranks tied for second in the MLS behind only Cucho Hernandez, 7 goals, 6 assists. I mean, pretty nice company to be up there in
That's
everything.
That's a good list.
Galaxy player with 10 goals and 10 assists in first season. Pec is 2 assists away and 1 goal away from meeting that. Let's see, the last person to do it. Oh, that guy, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He only had 22 goals and 10 assists in 2018 whenever he joined. What a ridiculous man
it's
that is.
crazy when you see that stat. 22 goals and 10 assists. That's impressive.
I think
You think back, like, did we really see that?
Yeah.
He really was scoring a goal a game,
Yeah.
and that was just automatic. You just knew he was going to score when he was on the field. It was kind of crazy when you sit back and look at those highlights.
Wouldn't you want to drop him into this lineup? Like, isn't this, you're like,
2018 Zlatan?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. It would be deadly. The Galaxy would have like 20 more goals than they have right now, which is nuts because they're already scoring a tremendous amount of goals. The Ramon Alessandrini's in that, 13 goals, 12 assists in his first season. Landon Donovan in 2005, 12 goals, 10 assists. So Gabriel Pec among giants whenever you're talking about LA Galaxy and what he's on his way to do. Another guy who's doing a lot of things is Riqui Puig as well. And with 2 assists in the 2-1 win over Minnesota United on July 7th, Riqui Puig now has totaled 16 goal contributions, 6 goals, 10 assists in 19 games played. That's 18 games started during the 2024 campaign. Notably, Puig ranks first in MLS this season and multi-assist performances. That's 4 of those. Yeah. So man is putting it together.
It's so funny, the critiques that he gets. And I understand it because I'm a big believer in nuance and kind of the gray area and two things being true at the same time. And I kind of made the joke about it, how he's our 5th center back with how deep he likes to play. He simultaneously hampered the team in that Minnesota match, but he was also integral in both goals where you would not have won that game without his contributions to it. So you have to live with it because he's going to make you a little bit frustrated, but then he's going to give you the wow that wins you the game at the end of it too. So I just think two things can be true, and I think that's why it creates some of this friction, with maybe some of the fan base arguing about Riqui and when the clamoring for Fagundes to be in the starting lineup is because, we see it. I see the flaws in Ricky's game, but I also see the benefits, and I want that guy on the field when it matters most and making it happen. And I think he really needed those assists in that Minnesota match because I think in that LAFC game, he maybe tried a little bit too much and needed some help taking the weight off his shoulders. So it was nice to see he still was able to shine, but other players like Gabriel Pec were able to take the lead billing on that as well. Because I think that's where Riqui lives best, is not when he's the main guy, but he's the guy behind the guy who's setting everything up. That's his bread and butter and where you want him.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword with him, and it is what it is. I mean, at this point, the Galaxy are definitely a better team with him. If he could play a little bit more within the system, the Galaxy could be a great team, right? And that's sort of what you want to see. You want to see that growth in there. But he's also the capability. There is not. I wouldn't say this to Gabriel Pec. I haven't seen Gabriel Pec take over a game. I wouldn't say in Minnesota you took over a game. I haven't seen Joseph Paintsel take over a game. I'm waiting for it. Show it to me, right? Take over a game. I've seen Riqui Puig take over a game. I've seen Riqui Puig do things that other people can't do, and that's the That's the level of quality that you have with Riqui Puig. So I'm here for it. Show it to me. Make it exciting, Ricky. Try the pass that nobody else is going to try because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't pull off, but whenever it does, that one time Galaxy score a goal, and you're like, oh, that's how it's supposed to work all the time. A little more selective with that, and I think I'd be a pretty happy camper. And then you live with the turnovers. I think Greg Vandy's in that right now. I'm living with the turnovers.
It is what it is.
Do what you're doing, Ricky. Keep going, So
I really like that point. And it's something that I think it needs to be repeated is the taking over the game piece. Joseph Paintsel, John McCarthy, Gabriel Pec, they've all been the best player in games,
right?
But they are not the sole reason where they put the team on their shoulders and they won because of them. I agree with that. There have been matches where Riqui is the reason why we ended up winning. So it's a slight distinction, and I think we could be splitting hairs when we argue about this, but I do think that is the next level for Gabriel Pec to unlock, where I'm saying the next step is him being selfish, and that is him putting it on his shoulders, and I'm going to do it myself. The Pedro Serrano way of thinking. Forget you, Joe Boo, I do it myself.
I'm sure that's exactly what he said. Are you saying that Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball? Well, great movie.
The perfect. The Serrano Pec thing.
It works. There's something there. But do you know how angry it makes me that I quote these things now and people just stare at you and you're like, are you
old? I pulled a hammy playing softball, Josh.
Not wrong. All right, let's get to all the super chats here real quick. Adam gives us a $2 super chat. Said, "Would this be Edwin's second time back in Dallas?" I can't remember if he played there last year. I believe he did. I believe they played Dallas late in the season last year.
I think they came.
They came.
Us.
They came to.
Was that F? Yeah, we'd have to fact check that.
I'd have to look and take it. $5.
He's definitely played Dallas last season.
Right.
At us, but I don't know if this is the second time back.
Speaking of Gabriel, We got a $5 super chat from Gabriel. It
there
might
we
be
go.
Gabriel Pec. It might not be. You never know.
burner.
It could be the burner. $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Gabriel, appreciate it. Adam, $5 super chat. Commentator of the match for analysts for Saturday will be Mark Followell and Warren Barton, both of which I actually enjoy. I have no issues with that. So I think some of you will be okay. Obrigado, Dios mío.
That's
Irvin.
thank you in Portuguese for
he-
Larry Morgan. He's going to text you that's what that means.
That's what that means. Later, he's gonna translate that. Although people were giving me pronunciation lessons apparently on some of my my Portuguese already, and I would like to say that I didn't study it, nor did I try. So Irvin, for that, thank you. We appreciate it. Gary, $2 super chat. Love the pod. Thanks, gents. Feel better. Hammer. Yeah. Do you need to just
going to power through.
That's right.
I'm gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna walk the stands at Toyota Stadium this week, and I'm gonna be a true warrior.
Right. Just tell your wife you're on IR, you're on the injured reserve, right? You need to sit there and not do anything strenuous, and you'll be fine. I don't know. That means she has to go get you the beer at the stadium.
She's great
right?
about. I was a big baby when it happened. She got me the ice pack and the ibuprofen. She petted my head and made me feel better. Sorry, mom. I'm hurt. So yeah, shout out to her.
I got something, and I don't know if people have been paying attention to this or not. Maybe you know. Maybe our chat room knows. Maybe nobody's paid attention. And I saw this on Reddit, and then I went and called the Galaxy because I'm like, hey, what's this? But the Galaxy sent out a letter to some of the premium seat holders and some of the season ticket holders. And basically what they were saying is, in the offseason, we're making some changes to the stadium. We're going to make some upgrades. And so I'll bring the letter up so that way you guys can read it if you want. But let's go over some of the things that they say they're going to do. And I would preface this by saying this is not a major redo. This is not a full, transition of the stadium. You're not getting this. Not going to be, but there's some significant things in here, and I would like to point out what they are saying, and that way you can start thinking about this. This will be in the off season, and things are going to change a little bit. New seating in the stadium's lower bowl for a uniform look of grays and blues to match Victoria Block. Every seat, including bleachers, will be replaced with a new, more comfortable tip-down seat. No more bleachers. That's what you just heard there. No mas.
That's a win.
The bleachers are gone. See you later. Have a nice day. LA Galaxy Outsider once again is going to make me. I'm not. You know what? That one's on you. Whenever we get there, whenever we get there,
we'll get there. Yeah.
So that's something. No more bleachers. Now expect the capacity to come down a little bit. Right, I'm guessing, but usually whenever you replace bleachers with seats, you lose a little bit of capacity. It's not going to be a ton, but a couple hundred seats, that type of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you get it. The fact that the lower bowl seats aren't going to be green anymore and they're going to be grays and blues like they're supposed to sort of be, so that way it actually looks like the LA Galaxy.
Rebrand?
This,
the rebrand we're hearing about.
This is not a rebrand. This is branding, right? Before there was nothing, now there's branding, and so we can see a little bit more.
It was a big question when Victoria Block was unveiled. Was as great as it now looked out of place compared to the rest of the stadium. So I know people like to go back and forth. It's not about, changing the color of the seats. So we need to win MLS Cups. That's what we should be talking about. Right. Okay. Yeah. But
make it look nice.
Yeah, but still
make it look nice. We can
also make the chairs match. So it's not out of place from Victoria Block. So I love that this is something that's coming down the line, and getting rid of bleachers is massive. I think right now, when you're talking about, in the United States, filling these big stadiums now, so what saw with the Rose Bowl and with the World Cup coming, It seems to be not a move away from the soccer specific. I think there is a magic to that 20,000 seat, experience with a soccer specific stadium, but you need to step your game up. And where Dignity Health Sports Park is, they're one of the older soccer specific stadiums, and you need to have these upgrades there. So when you're going to one of the premier Major League Soccer teams and you're sitting on a metal bench, that loses a little bit of, its luster. So I do like that they're moving away from the benches and going with the tip down seats.
Yeah. One of the other things that we have in here are, is the reimagined Cabana experience on the West Terrace adjacent to the American Express Stadium Club. Now, these are all in general really good things. I like them. Here is the big change. And I didn't really understand what it was until I talked a little bit with the Galaxy. And I think this will be the most noticeable change that you're going to see. But on the press box side of the stadium, so on the bench side where the Galaxy normally are, they're going to have upgraded and expanded field side seating, field lounges, and wait for it, player benches. Now, if I'm gonna explain everything to you here in a second, because I was like, I didn't get that when I first read it, but having conversations, I would like to tell you what that's going to look like. You know how the wall of the stadium comes down, and then there's that sidewalk that's there, right? That's there, and I've been down on the sidewalk many times. Lucky for me, and so I've walked it. Yeah. It used to be dirt. We remember when it was dirt around the edge.
It's also where you want to flex on people, where you're walking from the Champions Lounge with double fisting your drinks. Yeah,
exactly. So that pathway there. So what is going to happen instead there is they're going to have field side seating boxes that extend from that wall all the way probably to the grass. So the sidewalk es no más. Right? The whole deal with Dignity Health Sports Park we've always known is that it's set back a little further. Like if they're building the stadium now, they move everything right on top of the field, right? And the seats,
it's just of the times. They were a victim of the times,
Exactly. So we know now, and so from what I understand, we'll see. I haven't seen any concept art or anything like that, but I asked questions today to try to figure this out. Is that you're actually going to get those field side seats that will extend down to the grass area, so it's going to lower sort of that wall as it comes. It's going to like transfer forward, so there's almost probably going to be no wall whenever you have the seats there, and then the grass, there's going to be like, you're right there, right? So they're going to have that. Then the player benches aren't going to be where the player benches are anymore. No more rollout benches. Those are going to be gone. They're actually going to take those benches and move them into that recessed area where those players will have benches right up against basically those seats that are there. Right now, I don't know if it's going to upend any premium seats that are there or change anything. It might.
On that side of the stadium, I don't think
it shouldn't. Shouldn't, but there's definitely going to be something that happens there, and maybe the reconfiguration and how they do the benches. But the benches are going to look more like Red Bull Arena whenever it was made, which they're actually like back up into the stands a little bit more there. So that is what it's going to look like. That's going to be the biggest change when you come in next year, because likely this is done over the off season. When you come in next year, that's going to be the biggest thing that you notice is how those west side bleachers extend now all the way to the grass, which I think is going to look really cool. So.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. I've been wanting that to happen for probably 8, 9, 10 years. It's nice to see that they have that in mind. So I don't know if everybody knows that, but I wanted to share it because I think it's interesting and something that you can certainly pay attention to. So that was the stadium. I'm excited. Yeah. I like stadium changes.
It is exciting. It is. And it's always whenever you get, I was happy with the stadium upgrades this season, even though they weren't technically these big, gigantic upgrades. These little tweaks here and there just make for, and we're talking about premium experience. So this isn't necessarily the everyday fan experience with every single game.
Rich Galaxy fans, right?
But at the same time, having that there does give it an elevated feel. So say what you will and make fun of, the Inter Miami, having LeBron and Kim Kardashian in those field level boxes. And, you can make fun of that if you want, but it does bring a different, level of high end quality. And so seeing your home stadium do that, even though it's not necessarily going to be for everyone, but having kind of those field level VIP, access around the field, that is something that I think is exciting. And even if you're not going to, have those seats, it's something that I think brings attention to the club in a good way.
All right. You want to get to LA Galaxy outsider?
LA Galaxy, since we're speaking Portuguese, my irmão, my brother, the LA Galaxy outsider, said DTX glizzy on me, hammer. And then, of course, the hot dog emoji there. If you're not familiar, FC Dallas sells a foot-long hot dog that's covered in brisket and chili. And so, it's a popular item. They also have a giant taco that comes in a pizza box. Everything's bigger in Texas. So they have it at the baseball stadium too. It's called the Broomstick, a giant, foot-long hot dog. So FC Dallas, not to be outdone. So if the LA Galaxy outsider is paying, I will have my brisket chili foot-long hot dog and enjoy that on him.
A little bit.
Weird as that sounds.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's fine. The retro collection, the retrograde jersey and kit that is coming out. Yeah.
It's very similar. It's been leaked by Afrojack himself.
I mean, I think they gave it to him.
It's out.
One of those. Yeah, it's out.
There's no more leaks. Yeah,
I believe that debuts on the 16th, and then the Galaxy plays the 17th against. Is it Colorado? Is that the one, or is
Portland.
That or Portland? Portland on Saturday.
So
you're right.
If you're doing the math and you've been following along when this archive collection drops. If it's supposed to drop on the 16th or the 17th, and they have a game on the 17th, and it's a flashback, it's 90s night, do the math on what part of the collection is going to be available on that game day. So if you liked your 1996 inspired third kit that Afrojack was wearing at the Rose Bowl, that's probably going to be what's worn on that game against Portland, and those things are going to be available in the stadium.
It is going to be what is worn. You don't have to prep. We know. We know
It's
what
pretty
it is.
obvious.
And they
it's
did
like
it on
Royce
purpose.
Coming out, and maybe, hey, we never know.
Yeah, they did it on purpose whenever they released it, right? The whole deal. I will like to say that the amount of effort, and we have some insight into this if you're a member of the Discord, but the amount of effort that is being put into the merchandise that is going out, all of these different collections that are being put together. The Rose Bowl collection had some ridiculous amount of pieces.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. They set a record for selling the most pieces of a single collection in a single day ever, with like 2,222 pieces from a single collection, right? So not only is it being produced at a high quality in something that you like, you want to go buy, but you're buying it, right? And so you are rewarding their hard work, because I'm telling you right now, from what I have seen and the people who work behind the scenes, and big shout out to Nelson for certainly for spearheading a lot of this and working with everybody in the creative team in order to happen. This is by brute force. It doesn't seem like any of this stuff is easy, working with all these different vendors and different things. And the Galaxy are reborn right now under the front office, and what they're doing, they have the ability to do it. They're encouraged to do it. They're going out and possibly putting together one of the best merchandise teams in all of Major League Soccer right now. You can talk about all the stuff that happens on the field, because that's the most important.
Yes.
But pay attention to what's going on behind, because I'm paying attention to what's going on. I mean, they had a Twizzle Cosmo scarf. It's basically everything I've ever wanted in a scarf was Twizzle and Cosmo. It is and by the way, it looks good. You could screw that up. You could make it look ugly. Looks solid.
Yeah, it's pandering in the best way possible.
Right.
That's the way I can explain it, because we've seen this done wrong, where you try to pander to in a specific way, but it's not anything that people want. And I think that's credit to Nelson and the team and everyone who's kind of behind it. Is this isn't stuff that no one asked for this, and they're just putting, this is stuff that people have been clamoring for. They like the 96 look. They like, some of the old colors and a lot of the tradition that goes with it. With the Rose Bowl collection, you saw, how beloved that game was last season. The result wasn't great this year, but kind of the nostalgia that it brings. So the collection, the work that goes into that. And the one thing that I will point out is pay attention to other teams around the league as well and what their offerings are. And, notice it's not, there are some, and there's some clubs that have it, but it's not universal. And that's a credit to the Galaxy team that's pushing in the direction, hey, we want to make this happen. We want to have this available. This is something our fan base wants. And so, you really enjoy, you love to see all the things that are happening. There's a super chat here from Angelino, 199 super chat, said, is there really 40 retro pieces coming out? And I will have a correction to that. There are 60 retro pieces coming out. So it's not necessarily.
Hold on.
Is there more?
Update.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. 62 pieces right now. 45 new, 15-ish plus old, or sort of coming back into play on that. And then there's 2 more in there that I don't know where they came from, whether they're new or old. But 62 pieces for the retro collection. Which is not anything, which is not a small number. Yes, sorry.
Yes, and a slight correction to that, not a correction, but the clarification on that also. It's not necessarily 62 individual pieces as well. It's one piece with maybe 3 or 4 colorways. So that's kind of not fudging the numbers, but that makes it
makes
that
it
number
something.
inflate. But still, even if there's 3 colors on every single item, which that's not the case, that's still a lot of new items, 20 plus new items, 30 plus new items. That's fantastic in terms of what they offer for something that the fan base, look at the jersey I'm wearing. This was, I believe purchased during that 2020, we'll say their name, the Retros and Rarezas days, where fans were making these retro jerseys because they weren't available. So now it's available. And so I love to see kind of the direction they're going. And if you've seen the third jersey, I love that it honors this 96 look, but also has those quasars in the middle that are the new LA Galaxy identity. So it honors the past while still having some of those modern elements. So I know we're really going over the top, appreciating, shouting out the front office, how much that changes in 2 or 3 years of doing this show, how much, love we're showing them now. But it truly is deserved, for the things that they're giving them. And you're right. We want to see the product on the field. You want to win games, but this is an extension and expression. I'm the jersey guy. I'm always going to, look at those kit matchups and where's it going. It's an extension of showing love for your club. So yeah, we want the team to succeed. That goes without saying, but having this as a way to extend, I can't be mad at it.
Yeah, absolutely. The transfer window, by the way, somebody asked when the transfer window opened, July 18th, all the way to August 14th. So that's when everything kicks off. So the game against Portland, that last game, is the last one before the transfer window opens. And then away you go, boys and girls. It's on like Donkey Kong. So we'll see how we can sort of track that as it gets a little bit closer here. But yeah, that's where we wanted to sort of point out. A thing that's really important. By the way, Will Misselbrook has had a huge influence on everything that front office is doing creatively as well, and so I think it would be unwise of us not to credit it. And if you go talk to Tom Braun or Oriel and you Martinez, and you can sort of talk to those guys, they'll talk to you about all the stuff too. They're excited about it as well. I get that I'm in the press and they want to say nice things around me, and then I say things about it, but like they want to talk about it. They come up and they're like, hey, how's it going? Let's talk about all the merch we have coming. Let's talk about the tickets that we're selling for the Rose Bowl. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. It is a much different. What a difference a year makes. What can you say? $5 super chat from Adam. Does this mean guests such as celebrities or alumni won't be in suites anymore for games for next season? I doubt it, but there's going to be other premium options. What do you know? Premium options.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's doing at all the major stadiums in order to capture all of the dollars that they can, and so those field side seats will be a premium option. You'll get to sit right next to the LA Galaxy bench. You can yell at Greg Vanny right there. He'll be just sitting right there for you. I wonder. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's tiers. I think the certain level of celebrity is going to want to be in the box, maybe away from the masses. But your TikTok stars, they'll be on the field. Awesome. There's a certain level of where you're going to see them down on the level there. If I had to guess.
Yeah, that's what I would probably imagine. I'm really interesting to see if the field shifts over towards that side, because
I'm curious of that as well.
Right, because otherwise the benches will be so far back, and like the boxes for the coaches, where are those going to be? Like, does Greg have to walk like 20 yards to get to the sideline, or is he I'm just interested to see how it all plays out. Maybe the Galaxy have the widest field in Major League Soccer. Just extend it by another 12, 15 yards.
Anti-NYC, just go the opposite direction.
That's right. I like it. So that's what we have there. Another interesting little mark here. Riqui Puig is on yellow card warning again. Joseph Paintsel not on yellow card warning anymore. Riqui Puig on yellow card warning. Now, all of Riqui Puig's yellow cards have come because he's yelling at referees, except for one, and he was yelling at another player when he did that. So none of them have actually come from fouls because he doesn't play defense. So let's continue that myth, which is 90% true. Every once in a while he plays defense. I'm like, oh, there it was. That was it. That was the defense. You saw it. That was the last one. So
Do you think any of this, is any of this alleviated if you wore the captain's armband? Because isn't that the directive that the captain is supposed to speak? So I feel like if this is an issue or a continued issue, it's a loophole in the rule. But I don't know what the optics are moving it away from Yoshida. I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
By the way, clarification: 47 new items, 15 oldish that they're bringing back, which gives you your 62. So it was 2 more items that they were looking at. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Riqui Puig, I don't know. I don't think you can give him the captain's armband. I don't trust him. No. He's got too much of a hot head. Just, chill out a little bit. He needs to take a breath. Now, the other part of this is most fouled player in Major League Soccer.
Correct.
And then he's the most fouled player and then doesn't get half the fouls against him called. I can understand the frustration. Apparently, he's just really good at saying the one thing you're not supposed to say whenever he gets yellow cards really fast. So I would say use other language. Oh, I can't believe that you're really making me upset now. Now my blood is a boiling.
Yeah, we'll send him my daily stoic passages. Yeah, it's not the referee isn't doing this. I'm choosing to accept his decision, and then what can I do to make it better? Yeah.
Just a heads up and a reminder: Cosmos Cadets. My son loves this little lunchbox thing. He has it in his room and he's playing with it right now because I'm watching on the camera. He loves it. He was really upset that I borrowed it for the podcast. But go on lagalaxy.com and click on Cosmo and you can find all the information and sign up for Cosmos Cadets. And that way you too can be a member of that, and you don't have to be a kid if you just want that cool stuff too. There's a patch in there. There's a little banner that says Cosmo on it, which now is hanging up in my son's room. They basically... my son is now an LA Galaxy fan because whenever I turn on TV, he's like, well, "Who's the Galaxy playing?" And I'm like, "We did it. That's Uruguay and Colombia, right? The whole deal." And he's like, "Ooh, I like Uruguay." I'm like, "They're losing." He goes, "I like Colombia." And I'm like, "Okay, good choice."
Front runner, come on, man.
Right, absolutely, 100%. That's how you are when you're a kid. Who's winning?
Yeah.
I like them. I don't want to lose. Why would I want to lose? We should learn something. Just pick wait for the score and then pick a team and then switch if they don't win. You could just switch and then you'll win. You'll be a happier person. You'll be a much happier person.
I made this joke on another podcast talking about the Portuguese national team. This was the first tournament that my son has actually taken a genuine interest in following the players and rooting for it. So with the Euro and Copa America, he got super into it. So his heartbreak when Portugal lost, I was like, you get it now.
Yeah.
It's no longer I'm rooting for the winning team. He felt when we lost, he felt it. And I was like, what have I done to my son? He now feels these losses like we feel them. So a little bit of guilt, but also a little bit of pride. Like, what it means now to be part of the sports fandom, to have your heart ripped out. So, shout out to my son.
Last promo that we get to before we look at this Dallas game, because we have to do it quickly, because I think I got about 5 minutes max here. Yeah.
Turning into a pumpkin.
Yeah, the Portland game. That is the big reveal for all of the retrograde collection that is going on. The retrograde kit, which is the official name of that kit. The retrograde kit is coming out. The first 10,000, so you want to be there. The first 10,000 people in the door with tech decks. The little finger skateboards and stuff like that.
Oh, I know tech deck.
I'm just I listen. I felt like I got a call and they're like, hey, can you talk about tech decks? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, the finger skateboard thing, right? They're like, yeah, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I never once in my whole life ever played with one. I know what they are. I see people that looks like Mark Delgado actually looks like he can actually flip the board a little bit there. I was surprised. I'm like, I don't have those skills. First 10,000 people. I have seen what the tech deck looks like. You've only seen maybe the top side, right? Because they've showed you like a teaser and you just see the grip tape on the top, right? I have seen the underside. And I think you will enjoy it. I think it is appropriate for the retrograde collection. I think it fits in nicely. So I am 100%. I think you're gonna like it. So first 10,000 people, you get that. I hope I have one, because then I'm gonna be up in the press box the whole game, just like little kick flips, right?
There's a taco place around here that we like to go to that actually has a cement mini skate park. But it's not like for actual skateboards. It's for tech decks to go through, and that's impressive. So shout out to everyone who likes the tech decks. I'm with you. I've seen the pictures as well. Just that's another thing with this retrograde archive collection that's coming out. Some of the pictures just give you that, they hit you right in the nostalgia in terms of what it looks like. So when you see these things start to be revealed, it's going to be great.
John in the John Cena says, when are we getting a Galaxy PS1? Right? We're going to throw it back to the place. I would love. Can we get one of those? Is that possible?
Let's get us 64-bit. LA Galaxy game. Let's make it work.
I'm in for that. LA Galaxy taking on FC Dallas coming up on Saturday. Game starts at 5:30 p.m. 5:40 p.m. is your official kickoff time. This game is on Apple TV. It is one of the free games, so head on out there. Get Dallas 6-11-5. Galaxy 12-4-7. FC Dallas is 11th in the Western Conference, as we've looked at those standings before, and 21st in the Supporter Shield with 23 total points. I am not kidding you. The stats on this ridiculous streak is nuts. I've already given it to you. I'll give it to you again. The last win the Galaxy had was on August 15th, 2015. All right. The Galaxy have played 7 games since then. They've lost all 7 of them. Outscored 19-4 in those 7 losses. So that's what you're looking at. We also talked about FC Dallas and how they are a good home team. They're not 20 of their points come from home games this year. They have 23 points. 20 times they gotten 20 points at home, and that home record is 6-3-2 at home. Basically 72% of their points, 72% of the time they got a point or better at home so far this season. And if you want to compare that with the Galaxy, FC Dallas has a 1.81 points per game at home. The Galaxy have a 2.18 points per game. Not a whole huge difference between those two teams. So FC Dallas plays well at home.
Yeah, and I always go look at their roster, who's going to be that person that scares you. You saw it midweek. Peter Musa is their striker. They spent a lot of money to get him from Benfica in the Portuguese league, and he's someone who knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. So much like a lot of the decent strikers who put fear into Galaxy defenses, he's the one that I have circled on who you're going to watch out for.
Right.
And then a little bit of we saw it when FC Dallas came to Dignity Health Sports Park. You have Sebastian Lletget, you have Omar Gonzalez in this lineup. Lletget actually leads their team in assists, so he's having a little bit of a resurgence. And so as much as, he fell out of favor with the LA Galaxy fan base and maybe for some of his decisions while he was in Dallas, I think he's still someone that you have to circle. He's playing pretty well right now. And so I think with Peter Musa, you have to worry about him. Leggett is someone you're going to have to keep eyes on. And then, of course, their keeper, Martin Pace. He's always someone he stands on his head more often than not. A lot of those games that they won at home, it's usually because of his heroics in the goal. So when the Galaxy go up against these tough goaltenders, sometimes they struggle. So that's going to be your players to watch if I were to single out specific players.
Yeah, Pace, 37 goals against, 94 saves, 6-11-5 in there. Strangely enough, you don't see a lot of offense from this outside of Musa, right? You get 11 goals, 2 assists with him. Sebastian Leggett, you talked about leading the team with assists, 5 assists. He also has 1 goal on the season, right? Paul Arriola, you're like, oh, that's a guy who's always going to come in here. He has 1 goal.
Did you see his highlight?
So which one was
where he threw the ball at a SKC player's face? That was on the MLS game, not the Open Cup game. But, players sometimes they fake throwing a player at someone's head. If you haven't looked up the Paul Arriola throw-in highlight, I highly recommend. It's what everyone wants to do to those annoying players who get in front of you when you're trying to throw the ball in, and he just launches it at his face. Yeah, it's well done. Shout out to Paul Arriola.
I'd like to point out there are a lot of players injured, most significantly, and I think for them, a couple. Paxton Pomacall is out there, and Jesus Ferreira is one of the big ones that's probably a missing for them. Velasco's there.
Velasco's a big one.
Yeah. So, they have a lot of problems. The Galaxy, again, going to be without Jovalic, going to be without Aude, and going to be without Brugman. Is anybody else that I missed there? Let's see. Perez is unlikely. Yeah, Perez is unlikely to be back for this game, but probably in the midweek. I think that you look at this game very carefully and you're going to sprinkle around some changes in this game because I think you want the home game on Wednesday to be the one where you are like, I am raring to go, especially because you don't win games in Dallas. It's going to be hot. Now, that being said, I think there is an advantage for the Galaxy here. Greg Vanney said he's going to have to get something from everybody in these next 3 games, right? So expect that you're going to see some changes in there. If Perez can come back, expect that you're going to see him come into the game on Wednesday. I think Garces might have a chance at playing more minutes in this particular one. You're going to have John Nelson starting in place of Aude on this, right? So
we haven't talked about him. How about him having himself? He's a guy now. He's not someone who, is coming in, oh boy, we have to worry about Nelson. He's someone who's really solidified himself as a good option coming off the bench. So I think not just as a depth piece, he's shown that someone who's a capable 90-minute player, which I've been really impressed with John Nelson.
John Nelson, somebody said it's the whitest name in Major League Soccer. And I was like, we had the joke on Monday. The name of the podcast on Monday is John Nelson, even your real name, right? But no, I've been super impressed with him and how he's able to get into the offense now, not just defense, but play really well on the defensive side too. So let's see. He had a great game. Let's see it backed up because there's not any backup there. So he's going to be playing for a little while. Now, what they can do and what they have done is take John Nelson and move him out and take him off the field and move Miki Amane over and then put Cuevas over on the right-hand side. That's what eventually led to the goal.
Cuevas is the other name. Who's John Nelson and Cuevas. The more minutes they get, the better they look, which is exactly what you want.
Love it. Love to see it. So listen, the full roster is open for these next 3 games. I want to be very clear about that. You're going to see changes and you're going to be like, I don't understand those. Well, you should. There are 3 games in a week. It's super hot. I would say it's going to be really humid, but it's like 57%, 60% humidity. It was 70% humidity here down in Orange County. So I'm not over, but it's also 95 degrees. And at kickoff, I expect that's going to be around 88 if you're really lucky. Maybe, hopefully sub 90.
It won't drop as the time goes on too. It'll stay at 88 through the entirety of the game.
Right. So pay attention to that as you go. Sebastian Leggett's there. Edwin Cerrillo coming back to play in Dallas. So that's something to watch. You have Omar Gonzalez who's on the FC Dallas side as well. So some former Galaxy players definitely there to pay attention to. I will mention that FC Dallas lost 3 of their last 4 in league play. Now 2 of those 3 came on the road. They won 1 game at home, and then they lost 1 game at home to Cincinnati, who's currently the Supporters Shield leaders, 1-0. So that doesn't sound like that was an easy game at all. for FC Cincinnati. So this is a very big ask for the Galaxy to go in there and to break a streak that has been around now since 2015. So 9 years. And the reason that they played 8 games in those 9 years is because I think in 2020, whenever everything shut down, they didn't play them that year for whatever reason. They were trying to keep people like segregated into different things. And
the
I think
regions,
yeah. However, that ended up
Dallas
happening.
was too far.
It didn't happen. $5 super chat from Javier before we get to predictions guaranteed to be wrong. Hey, fellas, enjoying the show. Thank you for all your hard work. Go LA Galaxy. Thank you, Javier. We appreciate you.
We also had $2 super chat from Adam. It says center referee is Rami Tucson and VAR is Carlos Rivero. You mentioned it on Monday.
I know.
Who are these guys?
Rami. I know
Okay,
Rami Tucson. I'm there.
He's only reffed 5 matches this season.
Okay.
So when you look at it, I did have to go to like page 3 on the reference to see where he landed. So again, not tons of experience, but apparently he's know
been
who
around.
he is. So,
he's been around for a little bit.
Okay.
Even I know
stand
of him.
corrected.
Okay. I know of him. So, but yes, correct. We'll figure that. Let's see.
do you want D ratings?
Yeah, go ahead. D ratings. I didn't bring the graphic, but let's do
to
it.
your point on where this Dallas, while they're further down in the standings, it may seem like, okay, this should be almost similar to that San Jose game where you're an away favorite. Because Dallas is so good at home, the Galaxy are not an away favorite. The Galaxy have a 33% chance to win. Dallas has a 39.6 chance to win, and then a 27% chance for a draw. So not
Over
terrible,
50.
still over 50%.
Over 50% to get a point.
For a point. But again, it does skew in the favor of FC Dallas. Money line, you get the Galaxy at plus 135. That's the best option right now. FC Dallas at plus 185, and then a draw plus 280. Maybe a draw if you're not liking my Joseph Paintsel as a forward theory. If you think Miguel Berry is going to be your starter, maybe you're not going to see tons of goals in the heat. These just see 2 teams slug it out to a 0-0 or 1-1. The over/under is set at 3 with the over at minus 110. The under also at minus 110. So I guess
they're screaming.
Take your pick.
Yeah, I was going to say pick them.
Screaming 1-1 draw.
I know it's screaming 1-1 draw to me. No, it's a super interesting game. I don't think Dallas needs the ball in order for them to be successful. I think they like trying to sort of play on that counter. Sometimes that plays into the Galaxy's hands. If Dallas goes low block, then it's always more difficult to break down. Listen, somebody said this, and I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Low blocks are tough to break down at any level. You could talk if you're watching the Euros
Go
and
watch
they go into
Euro.
low block. Watch the low block. It's a really good tactic because you're compressing space and you're not allowing in the most dangerous areas wide open shots or clear lanes to take shots. It takes a lot of work to break down a low block, and then if you are the team that likes to control the pace, then a lot of times you overcommit your players in order to try to break down the low block, and then all of a sudden you get caught on the counter and everybody's like, it came from nowhere. It's like that's what the low block does. So
I was going to say, I changed my tune on the low block. I used to think, do I just follow teams that are incapable of breaking down the low block, with watching the Galaxy, watching the Portuguese national team? And I've changed my tune, especially after watching this Euro. And it's no one can break down the low block. It works. There's a reason teams use it is because it works.
Right. LA Galaxy Outsider before we get to predictions guaranteed to be wrong. I like how we're just keep playing out the predictions guaranteed to be wrong. $2 super chat. Am I the only one mad at Becky for taking him back? Is that real? That's not true, right? I've
heard conflicting reports.
Okay. You should know. You're there. I don't know.
Because he doesn't invite me over for the barbecues anymore.
Okay. I just wanted to understand. Weather conditions, 97 for the high, 76 for the low, 40% chance of rain, which is sort of like any time in Texas this year. There's always a chance it could rain, so you never know.
Yeah, we can go outside. It might be raining right now.
58% humidity is what I had in Frisco. That was all for Frisco, so I correctly pointed it in the right direction. The Galaxy will train on Friday, so tomorrow, if you're listening to this podcast now, they'll train tomorrow in the AM, in the PM, fly out to Dallas, and then they will play in the game, and then hopefully get right back after that game and head back to Los Angeles because they will get ready for that Colorado game coming up midweek. So that's what we have for you today. Predictions. Eric, go.
I'm picturing this. I referenced the San Jose game. I feel like this is something similar where they went away to San Jose. They took care of business, and then you saw that be a 3-0 win. Because Joveljic is not starting, I don't have that confidence, and I'm going to fight against the 1-1 draw match is just screaming to be. I think the Galaxy are that much better of a team to beat Dallas. I say Galaxy 2-1 win. They break the streak. we kiss babies, and no, that's not the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Shake hands.
Shake hands. Yeah.
Dogs hugging cats, whatever it is. I messed that up, but still. Galaxy win 2-1.
I would like to tell you that this is the year. I think that there are some positives for the LA Galaxy. I think the fact that Dallas was in Sporting Kansas City, it was late.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get the rest. They probably didn't get back whenever they wanted to. They're probably missing out on a day because of how they returned, and their recovery is probably screwed up a little bit, and then maybe their timing's a little bit off. And if you watch the legs in that U.S. Open Cup, there was nothing there. So if you're the LA Galaxy, you hold that game to 0-0 and get into the second half. Yes, you're going to be tired, but will you be a little bit less tired than Dallas, who was playing a little bit later? Possibly. And that's the thing you sort of have to look at. If I'm Greg Vanney, I do rotate some of the guys here. I think that the second half is where you will win or lose this game. So if the Galaxy are going to win, they're going to win it. I agree. 2-1 is very easy to sort of predict that, and they have to win it late because they're waiting for Dallas to make a mistake in that second half. However, this is Dallas. Weird things and wacky things happen in Dallas. So I expect the wind to pick up, and it's blowing sideways, and a cross suddenly gets blown into the goal after a weather delay. Something wacky is going to happen in this game, and it's how the LA Galaxy respond to wacky. And I don't know. Greg Vanney was always already said this was a tough place to play, and you're going to need something to happen in order to get a result. I think the Galaxy lose this game, if I'm being honest with myself, because they can't. They can't.
Go in the other direction.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. This could be the game because Miguel Berry is there, where the Galaxy are very stagnant in the first half. Not a lot is happening, and then Vanney has to try to make adjustments in the 60th minute, and whether or not there's any energy left to make those adjustments to sort of play it. So that's where I said Galaxy lose 2-1.
Prove him wrong. Do it for me. Do it for the Hammer. He'll be in attendance rooting you on, Miguel Berry. Miguel Berry hat trick.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a hot one. Be careful out there. No sunstroke. Wear your sunscreen. All right. Lots of hydration. Okay.
Lots of hydration. I'll stretch. Yeah, we'll make it work.
All right. Very good. I think that's it. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it. I'll let you get back to your duties.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right. As always, you can find me on everything at Hammer EV9, Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things at Hammer EV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter and X, it's at Guesman at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com, or you can look for all of our videos on YouTube, our podcasts on Spotify and Apple iTunes, and any place you can find podcasts, Google Play Store. That's where you can certainly find us. Galaxy in Dallas on Saturday. We'll be back home on Wednesday night against Colorado, so we'll be back on Monday night to talk about this game on Saturday, get you ready for Wednesday. A lot of good things. Shout out to everybody who's been saying hi to me at this stadium. I love you all. I hope you're wonderful. Happy birthday to all my birthdays out there, and we will talk to you very soon. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little corner of the galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.